maintaining and repairing the safety features on your kerosene heater. Welcome back to Survival Existence. Today I'm going to show you how to properly clean a kerosene heater, which should be done at the beginning of every heating season, and I just haven't yet up to now because I simply have not had the time. I also noticed while I was checking this heater out before I started recording this particular video that the safety feature that cuts this heater off automatically whenever it's tipped over isn't working. It sounds like it is. The weight is balanced, and whenever you turn the wick up, you'll hear it trip whenever I tip it over, but it's not pulling the wick down. You'll notice, if you can see in there, this wick is still up. Whenever you tilt it, it should drop the wick and cut the heater off automatically, and it's not doing that, although it sounds like it is. But when it tripped like that, that's supposed to pull that wick down and cut the heater off. The wick's still up, so the safety feature isn't working, and I'm going to find out why and repair it so that it's safe to use. First, you need to look at your heater and see how it disassembles. This particular one, of course, I've had apart before, cleaning it, and of course it needs to be cleaned now, but this one has screws around the base of this chimney that I will have to take out in order to remove the top part of this to get to the wick and the rest of the mechanism. But as it is, I'm going to take these Phillips head screws out of the base of this chimney so that I can remove this whole upper chimney completely away from the base of the heater. Now that I have the two screws that holds this upper part of this chimney away from their areas, I can remove this top part and set it to the side, exposing the rest of the mechanism, including the wick. This wick adjusts down and up for lighting and down to set how much temperature you want in your house. This is your reset lever. It has a weight in there, and it should trip when you turn it over like it did there. Now, I did not have the wick turned up at this time, and if this is working correctly, you should be able to turn this up and it automatically drop itself back down if you haven't reset that lever. That lever has been reset now, and whenever you tilt it over, this wick should drop, and it obviously isn't. So whatever lever is supposed to be pulling this wick down is no longer evidently attached to the wick, and I'm going to have to find out why to make it safe to use. Next, I'll take this top plate off of the base of this unit using a smaller Phillips head screwdriver. Once the screws have been removed from the top of this base, this whole thing should come up and over this knob and that lever. The reason I know that is that the set screw that's on this knob that holds it in place cannot be accessed at least reasonably easily without removing this first. Therefore, I know this will come off. And while I have all this off of here, I will take a brush and brush away any of the loose dust, items, whatever else that's in this area. Normally I would do a job like this outside, but to be honest with you, it's in the low 20s this morning, very cool, there's a breeze. I don't want to be out there freezing. I can do this inside reasonably safely, and also without making too big of a mess by putting paper down. I believe I've found out what the problem is. There's a spring that's supposed to be lined up and come all the way to a lever inside this dial. that whenever it resets, it should release the spring and allow it to turn and bring this wick back down. So I'm going to take the knob off and see what I can do about straightening that spring out. Looking right here, you can see where this spring is bunched up. I'm going to see if I can't release the spring and get it straightened up and get it to properly drop this wick back down to make this heater safe to use. This is the spring that's messed up. I'm going to try to straighten it out. I'm really not sure if I can even still get parts for this heater. I bought it some years ago myself. But I'm going to try to straighten it out, and it should be just fine. Okay, now that I've rewound that spring and hopefully have it tight enough, I'm going to put this knob back on and make sure that it in fact is tight enough. And believe it or not, there is a right way and a wrong way to put this screw in. The threads are on this side. As a consequence, you need to feed this screw in from this side where it'll slide in and go through the bottom. So, as a consequence, I'm going to put it in this side. Now that I've reset this wick, I'm going to try it again. I'll reset the tip over mechanism, turn the wick up, and then I'll trip it and it cuts off. It's not turning too hard. I had the spring wound so tight the last time I tried it, actually the wick over traveled, and there's some what looks like the male end of a snap that rides inside this Ventura that raises this wick up and down. Whether you're turning it down by hand or because of an emergency, it turns it down. But it's working right now. Also, while you have this Ventura off, or wick holder is what it really come down to, wick winder, I took the wing nuts off of this and pulled it out just like I would as if I was replacing the wick. While you've got it off, check the rubber seal between this wick winder and the tank and make sure that it's not dried or cracked. If it is, it needs to be replaced, and you don't need to be using your kerosene heater until it has been fixed. Also, before you put this wick winder back on, make sure there's no kind of dirt or anything else that would keep the winder and the tank from sealing well together. Now I'm going to put these wing nuts back on now that I've got everything good and solid. Okay, we started this kerosene heater, and as you can see, the flame is starting to grow larger and larger, and kerosene heaters, much like kerosene lamps and lanterns, have to heat up in order to reach their best efficiency. You can turn this wick down to slow it down or turn it up to speed it up. How I normally start a kerosene heater myself, the way I prefer to, is to start it wide open, let it get up to temperature, and then turn the wick down where I actually want it. But if you'll notice, as time goes on, the flame becomes brighter and brighter and far more efficient. It stops flickering and comes on out, and it's putting out a great deal of heat even as we speak. Very little odor. A kerosene heater, much like a kerosene lamp or lantern, either one of the three, whenever it is actually operating as efficiently as possible, it has very little to no odor whatsoever. As you can see, this heater is warming up. It still isn't up to its most efficient temperature, but it is warming up. The house is good and warm, although it's quite cold outside today. So I'm going to turn this thing down, and you can turn it down wherever you need to have it. I'm going to turn it down to right there, and if you'll watch it, the flame on the wick will actually recover some. Flame will get a little bit larger, so you always turn it down further than what you think you need to. Now, if you turn it down too much, you're going to get a great deal of fumes from the kerosene and the inefficient burning of kerosene. You don't want it there. You want it above that level, but you don't want it too hot in your home either. Besides being too hot in the home, it's a waste of kerosene. Being able to work on your own equipment at home or your homestead saves you a great deal of money and a great deal of time in the end. You no longer have to wait on a repairman to show up to do a job that you're never quite sure that they're capable of performing, especially with something like this. Normally something like a kerosene heater would go back to its manufacturer, which takes a great deal of time, obviously. And beside that, once it gets so old, the factory no longer wants to repair them. They will quite often keep parts for them for so many years down the road, but of course that doesn't help you when you're doing without heat. You're in a snowstorm. So save money and learn a new skill. Learn how to repair things around your homestead. This has been Bobby with Survival Existence, helping you help yourself. Subscribe to our channel here on YouTube at Survival Existence. Come visit us on Facebook and subscribe to our website at survivalexistence.com. Have a good day.